Hi, folks. This is another Taylor's Eyewitness Barlow knife. Hope you're not bored with these. Funnily enough, I don't think I could ever get bored with these, no matter how many of them I collect, and I seem to have accumulated a few. But this one is in, call Amboyna Burl. Now, I don't know if Amboyna is actually a name of a wood or whatever. I've never really quite got to the bottom of that, but Burl wood. It's wood with a lot of pattern in it like this, which is usually from a sort of root ball or something like that. But it is such a variable material. This one is obviously a Taylor's Eyewitness Amboyna Burl, as is this, but they are completely different. This has got lots of little sort of rings in it. This one's got some larger knots in it, but it doesn't have to be like that. This is another Taylor's Eyewitness Amboyna Burl, but this one has these sort of striations in it, which is very pretty. Or you could have this one, which again is Taylor's Eyewitness Amboyna Burl, but this is very pale, very beautiful wood. It's very lustrous, actually. Well, they all are, I suppose. But then other makers also produce burlwood knives. One I've recently picked up that you've not seen yet, but you will shortly, is this one from Michael May, which again is a lovely, lovely bit of lovely bit of work. He trained at Taylor's Eyewitness. He trained Lee, who made these with the other four actually. And maybe you can tell. I don't know. Something similar going on there. But then I've got others. There's a Spanish Amboyna Burl here. It's a shame they've put that shield right in the middle of it, actually. I think it's a nicer bit of wood. Really nice to just see the wood. And see the wood for the shield. Oh, up there somewhere. Running out of space. I have a French one from Robert David, which is Epicurean. Beautiful bit of burly wood. And then I've got to have an Italian one. Now this one's dyed. This is dyed burlwood, so it's green. So it's got a completely different look to it. You wait till you see this knife. It's a lovely knife. I don't know. You'd call that file work if it was British, and if it's French, you'd call it guillotine. I don't know what you call it when it's Italian. I don't speak Italian. And then I have a South African one, which actually I think is sort of similar to the penknife one, except this is just a darker wood, but it's a similar type of pattern. But whatever way you look at it, you get a burl wood. You get the huge variety. It's even more than with things like desert ironwood. Anyway, enough of that. Let's have a look at this particular knife. See what it looks like. Just lift all of these out of the way. These are some of my very favourite knives you've just seen, by the way. The burl woods are just beautiful. As I say, so this one, it's got this lovely bit of burl here. There were two sister or brother knives, twins. The other one has gone to one of my subs. Both of them were in the Bakewell cook shop, and because I was there first, I got to see pictures of both, and I chose this one, but I could equally have chosen the one that went to David. I think the wood on the back of his, from memory, I think the wood on the back of his was probably the nicer of the two. This one, I mean, don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with the back of that. Whereas this one, the front is the nicer of the two. I'm pretty sure with David it's the other way around. And that's, I think, why I went for this one. It's not that this one was intrinsically better or his one was worse. Just, I think this was probably better on the front. But anyway, it's a lovely knife. So this is the new, they retooled last year, so we've got some nice crisp printing of the Eyewitness Sheffield England on the bolster, on the tang, on the back, just on the bolster. Lovely smooth pins, lovely smooth transitions, all the things that you would sort of expect me to say, but I think, one day I'll come out and with one that's not perfect, but of late I haven't seen anything that at least turned out that isn't spot on. I mean, there's no gapping in there, no hint of it. Now, I know the file work can cover a multitude of sins, but it doesn't really matter. No matter how much you look at this, there's no sins to see. You can see the dishing on the inside, which is interesting. But it doesn't. See, I never quite understand this, and maybe someday somebody will explain it to me in words of one syllable. But in order to give the brass liner more strength and rigidity, because it would be quite flexible, they do a thing called dishing. That's to say, you lay the brass liner down under a press, and the press puts a mark into the liner, sort of more or less along sort of this part of the knife. So it means that liner is no longer flat. And that means that every time you try and pin one of these things together, you're trying to make it flat. And the reason for doing that is that bit of, or the reason I'm told for doing that, is that it gives that bit of brass a bit of extra rigidity from its form. Rather than being a flat sheet of brass, it's now a three-dimensional sheet of brass. Now, if you look inside, you can just about see that, because as you get towards the middle of the knife, middle of the handle rather, you can see that the brass is, how do I put it, closer together, the two liners. And you can see, if you look at the edge of where the spring goes, I don't know whether you'll be able to see that. It's sort of as though there's more of a gap, as it were, towards the ends, and in the middle it's, I don't know. Can you see that? You see where my thumb is, you can see a little sort of almost a black gap between the spring and the liner, but when you get down to where the middle pin is, there's no such gap. And that's because the brass liners are not flat, they've been dished. So you've got to fight with that to make it smooth and flat at the edges and smooth and flat at the back. And that's why I think you get a little bit of gapping. Well, the other reason you get gapping is because shoddy manufacture, but Lee's not a shoddy workman. But you do occasionally see a hint of gapping, and you lose it. You can't see it because of the file work, but in this case I don't think there's any gapping, or even a hint of gapping to see. So it's a really well-made knife, but it's not as straightforward as you might think. You might think if you've got flat bits of wood, flat bits of brass, flat bit of spring, nail them all together, it's going to be flat. They're not, because the brass bits aren't flat. They have to be carefully put together to make sure that they lie flat, and they do. Yeah, it's beautifully done. So I'm very, very pleased with this knife. I think it's a lovely knife, lovely addition to my collection. I didn't have any wooden ones, and now suddenly I have 4 Lee White ones. I've got 3 Lee White ones actually. One isn't by Lee White, but we'll come to that when we get to that. So, but for today, I think that's probably all I really need to say about this beautiful little knife. Except I should mention that people always ask in the comments, where do you get them from? I get them from the Bakewell Cookshop. If you go onto their website, or if you contact David Kidd at the Bakewell Cookshop, they will help you find the exact knife that you want, and show you pictures of it and a video of it, if necessary, before you buy it, in order that you make sure that you do get the right one first time. Particularly important if you're buying from overseas. Warthog bought one the other day from David. I think it arrived with him in about a week dead. It might have been a week and a day, but it was around about that 1 week mark, which I thought was pretty good to get to the States. But you imagine if it got there and he looked at it and it wasn't quite what he was expecting, to send it back from the States, very, very difficult. It's expensive and slow and so on. But you know, he knew what he was getting when it arrived, and I think that's very important. It's true in the UK, but if you're getting it shipped overseas, it really matters a lot. So that's where I get them from. And yes, you get a 5% discount if you buy from them and mention me, and I get a 5% store credit. Cuts both ways. So thank you very much for watching. If you are interested in this sort of stuff, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of them, and there is more to come, then please subscribe, and remember to ring the notification bell if you want to see when new videos come out. Okay, thank you very much, folks. Bye.